My goal is at the end of the 8 weeks, you've got the 8 units complete. And you can be uploading stuff, getting it marked as we go. Some of it's computer marked, some of it will be marked, by Mandy. And then if you've got your 100 hours, you could actually finish the course in 8 weeks, which is, I think that's achievable. I think that's very realistic. But of course, that depends on what you're doing. I'm sure some of you are already doing 40, 50, 60 hours of employment somewhere. It just depends on case by case, obviously. But I mean, there's no rush. You don't have to complete it in the 8 weeks, but maybe that's something that, you're hoping to do. We'll see. So Mandy is with us for the 3 weeks. So I wanted to give Mandy the opportunity, first cab off the rank, to share with us some stories and some insights into the area of chaplaincy that Mandy has been in. So Mandy, it's over to you. Inspire us, aspire us in the space that you've been in chaplaincy.
Thanks, Jeremy. Okay, well, I've worn 2 hats in chaplaincy. The one I did for 10 years was as a school chaplain. And the other one that I've done for probably longer than that is a community chaplain. And I thought tonight, especially in conversation with Jeremy, that the community chaplain is probably the best one for me to talk about, because it's one of the spaces in society where it's so easy to start. There's so many different charities that are just crying out for volunteers. And I know this particular charity that I've worked with, they're always accepting volunteers, and I'm sure you'll be able to find a similar thing. So what sector that is? Well, it was in our local government area of Parramatta, which is where we set up this charity. And it's a charity called Lifelinks. And the whole goal of it was to set it up in the local community and support the poor, particularly in Parramatta, those that are new to the country, the homeless, ones that are disenfranchised, or just families and people in difficult season. So, the statement of Lifelinks is helping people at their point of need. And I think it's a really good statement, even just for a chaplain, that's what we do. We help people at their point of need. It was set up as an idea of like 4 people that thought, we really want to get out and see what our local community needs. What's its pain points? Like in some cities you see it might be a high crime rate. In other ones you see there might be a lot of homelessness or a lot of youth crime or whatever. So we wanted to find out what's our pain point in our city. And one of it was just new migrants and asylum seekers that tended to settle in Parramatta with very little resource, very little, ability to understand a new country and where they've come to. And a lot of them from war-torn places and places where there was a lot of persecution for them being minority groups or whatever. So it was a huge learning curve for us to realize that that was one of the pain points for our city, and to be able to be there to help them. So that's one of the main areas that Lifelinks actually supports as this charity in Parramatta. And so some of the areas where we help people would be in food security, in supplying white goods, clothing, emergency relief. We also do in national disasters, but not necessarily on the ground, more through finance that's raised, seeing that it goes to those different places. English language lessons, which is crazy. You would think I don't even speak another language. I'm only one language, but yet here we are with children's picture books. Like you can do amazing things when you just have a heart for people. You don't always have to have high skill sets and degrees and all the rest of it. People sense your heart and sense your love for them. And so, yeah, we did like English language lessons, advocating for them. Sometimes they just don't understand how to fill out a form. Or there's been times when we've advocated at schools for them because there might have been difficulty with parents understanding, and then children act out. And so you'll just be there as a support person. So there's just so many ways to support new migrants as they settle into the country. in the immigration interviews, you know, to make sure that they have someone alongside them that can actually be with them while they're under terrible pressure in an interview. Just financial support in our local schools as well, for the Indigenous children in our local schools, for children that come from very poor families. So just being able to, as a chaplain, make links with those local school principals and just saying to them, look, you know, we're a local charity. Do you want help in your school for any students that are suffering or struggling, or families that might, you know, just be really struggling to pay their fees, or, you know, pay for kids' camps and excursions and uniforms and the rest of it. So that was an area that, you know, as a chaplain, I was involved in making those connections. Also reaching out to other local government charities so that we could build relationships with them, and then they would refer different people to us, whether it was a DV case like domestic violence and there was a family that needed support there, or it could be unemployment, loss of jobs, or being retrenched. So there's so many different ways that we would have referrals of families or individuals to the charity, and then we'd be, you know, people that would help them. Also to just support after school for children with their homework, you know, parents that are working, or maybe single parent families that, you know, they're struggling, you know, with the whole working full time and then trying to do their children for homework or picking up from sport or whatever. So it would be that place where we'd help them with homework as well. How did we do it all? Volunteers, you know, so there's just so much opportunity if you really just get into the heart of different charities. And sometimes what your skills or what your history might bring to that charity could open a new way for them to serve the community. You know, you don't realize that sometimes what skills you've gathered over your lifetime might be just what they're looking for. And so never underestimate your history and what you might come with, you know, the little gifts that you bring. Why did I choose this field? I think it more chose me. It's just, you know, a passion to help people. And the next minute you find yourself in places where, you know, you can use your gifts and your abilities that you have. I think it brought me a lot of joy as well, personally. I mean, there's just something about giving to others, particularly when they're, you know, in a place where they're struggling, and you think you know, if you could give them $1 million, it probably wouldn't help them, you know, as much as just sitting alongside them and offering that support for whatever crisis they're in. It also, I think, a lot of personal satisfaction in helping people access things. You know, you're just that go-between person. You're the link between them accessing something that they wouldn't have known about. You can refer them to agencies and organizations that can help them that they otherwise wouldn't have known about. So, you know, being that person that's able to make the link for them as well. I love empowering someone to help themselves. It's so much better than just giving them something and keep giving them something and keep giving them something. But it's like, you know, that old phrase that says you can hand someone a fish or you can teach them to fish for themselves. And so I think as a chaplain, one of our roles is to really empower people to help themselves. And so I find that, you know, I've been able to do that in a community space. Being part of the solution and not the problem. You know, we always hear the bad news, but, you know, to have the privilege of being alongside people at often their crisis point. You know, everyone in life will hit a crisis point of pain, and not everybody can sit in that ash pit with them. And I think chaplaincy gives us the skills and to be able to do that, and not to be able to come with all of the answers, because we don't often have answers for life's worst crises, but to be able to sit with people just as a present person sitting there with them, I think that that's really gold. And so part of, you know, why this field, I just actually really love the fact that when I'm serving and helping people seeking asylum in this country, or they've come out of a lot of war and things like that, there's nothing that they can give me back. So you serve without any want of anything back. And there is something really rewarding in that, because you know you're not doing it for your own personal gain or for anything that you can get. There's no money attached to it. It's totally voluntary in this role that I did anyway. So that to me is very, very fulfilling. Qualifications was something that you don't need anything of. In that community space, you really don't need to have degrees or certificates or anything like that. However, I will say that learning has really helped me be more effective and better at it. So while I don't need a qualification to volunteer in this community organisation, I've got cross-cultural qualifications. I also have a chaplaincy qualification. And I just think even just pastoral care qualifications of basic counselling and stuff. And I think it's been very, very helpful. It's helped me to help them better. And so, any kind of education around this is really a good asset and a good thing to have. A basic understanding of not-for-profits and charities and how they run, the limitations and the rules that government might put on charities or does put on charities. I think that's a good thing if you want to serve in chaplaincy in this sector. It's good to understand what your different local government or the state government requires of charities. Okay, so that might be just something as well. As far as qualifications, there are different screenings, as Jeremy mentioned before. In this charity of Lifelinks, we don't require people to have working with children's checks unless they're working directly with, say, the children doing the homework after school or stuff like that. Then we would require it. But otherwise, we're mainly serving adults, and parents and things like that. So it's not really been necessary, but yeah, it's good to check. So we haven't needed it. So a couple of stories I thought to share with you about my experiences, and I've chosen a couple. I'm hoping I can share some photos as well. These people have got no problem with permissions for these photos because we've shared them before, but I will withhold their names just for their own privacy. So I've got 3 stories today. One simple one was just a story, no, not simple, but one of the ones that comes to mind was just intervention for a young mum who, and when I say young, she's probably only 30. She had 6 children, which is a lot of small children. And of course, there was domestic violence there. So, she was referred to us and we could help her and support her with food, like just to help her pantry. And we did that every 2 weeks. And so it gave nappies for the children and just all that kind of thing. And we accessed all of that through food banks. So as a registered charity, you can get access to food bank and you can purchase. You still have to buy the food. Some is free, but you can purchase the food and you'd get a lot more food than if you went to, say, Woolworths or whatever, and you can help families. So often with maybe $500 a week, you could maybe give, a really good amount of food to maybe anywhere between 15 to 20 families. So, food banks are very great, resource if you have that charity status and can get it. So this mother was able to be helped. She's still being helped every fortnight. And it's really, supporting her in a good way. There is an elderly single mum. Now here I'm going to try and share this photo. Okay, it's not giving me 1 second. I'll just move this one. Okay, now let me try and share again. I've got 2 screens here, so it's kind of not. Oh no, it's not giving it to me. That's a shame. Doesn't matter. Maybe Nate, would it give it to me with documents?
I think Nate and Zach have taken off a bit. So
have they? Doesn't matter. I'll try and see if they come. I'll try. Actually, I might be able to pop it in the that's where I could put it. It's just in the group chat. Yeah, and you'll see it that way. So I really want to show you the joy on this man's face. So this is the adult son of hang on, I just need everyone. Okay. So this man is the adult son of a widow that comes into the charity, and she's referred from Migrant Resource Centre in Parramatta. So they screen a lot of referrals for us. And this young boy, called young, when I say he's probably about 30, but he comes in, he's mute, he's disabled, and he is Afghani, and him and his mum were asylum seekers probably about 10 years ago, was their first introduction to us at Lifelinks. His absolute joy is every Monday watching the bus come in, watching it be unloaded. He bosses everyone around. He helps everyone up 2 flights of stairs with all of these packed boxes. And he just brings so much joy to the whole place. The whole community knows him. And to be able to journey with this family for a good decade has been an absolute privilege. There's been opportunities in winter to provide them with clothing, with heaters, pay their bills. Like, it doesn't happen that we support them in everything, but when there's an extremity, when they can't meet their need, we've been able to do that. But I think more than anything, building the relationships with people over time. These people will always stay with us because their situation's not going to change. It's not like mum can go out and get work. It's not like he can go and be employed. But, building that relationship over time has been very, very precious. So, yeah, it's just really lovely. Everyone looks forward to him every week, and it's his highlight of the week, I'm sure. Then another one I wanted to share with you, another story. This was an English class that we do, and you can see the man sitting when it uploads. So this is an Afghani man and his wife. You can see him sitting there with the blue shirt on. His wife's got the green hijab on. And they went through a lot of persecution. He was tortured by the Taliban. He was shot through the shoulder. He pulled off his shirt one day and showed me the bullet hole in his shoulder. And you can see he's lost his hand because they chopped his hand off. Now, when you get people like that, it's just so confronting. I mean, I've just been raised in a home in Sydney and never had to experience anything like that. And again, just to be able to walk alongside this family, to be able to be there as that link to help them get the provisions they needed, to see them, be provided with just basic needs until they could get on their feet and find meaningful employment and learn English and be able to get access to the things that they needed. So, these things are really challenging. Sometimes, as a chaplain, you just get challenged by people's journey in life, and you wonder at that time why you got it so good compared with maybe someone else on the planet. But you're just this link, you're just somebody's there at their point of need to really help them get on their feet and get back up again. And so they're 3 stories I just wanted to share with you tonight, of many over the last 10 or 15 years in this charity. And it's been just a real privilege to journey with these people during these times. Challenges in the field of chaplaincy. There's plenty of challenges. As you can see in this area, one of my biggest personal challenges is language barrier, because I only speak English. So I really am very reliant on the volunteer base that gathers around us to have those other languages. So we have one lady that is Arabic and she does all the Arabic speaking. We have one lady that's from Iran. She does all the Farsi speaking. And then sometimes we even have the clients that are referred to us helping us out, translating for other people there. So it's great when they do, because they really feel like they've got something as well to add to the team. So yeah, language barrier is a big one. I get out Google Translate so much and I use it so much. I remember one time having like 5 Iranian ladies just rock up and none of them could speak any English. And I had to work out, what they wanted and what they needed. And so Google Translate did it for me that day. And because my normal lady that speaks Farsi was away. So anyway, so language barrier is a big one. Cultural and religious barriers, it really helps to learn a little bit about backgrounds of people that you're serving. So sure, I can't learn every cultural norm from every country, but basic things like what's a general understanding of Islam, or what's a general understanding of Hinduism, or those kind of things are really helpful. Just, you don't need to know everything, but just a general knowledge can really equip you. And so that's been helpful. And seeking to understand rather than judge, because it's so easy to fall into that category of like quickly making an assumption or quickly making a judgment. And so, yeah, that's been something I've had to learn, and seek to understand people and where they're from and what they've gone through. Another challenge in this is the volunteer resource. So I want to encourage you, our biggest challenge as a charity working in this space is getting people to help on the ground that, have got a Monday free, because we usually do it Monday morning. So it's been hard sometimes to get, enough people. So no qualifications needed, nothing like that. So, there's plenty of charities around like Lifelinks. So I really encourage you, don't be afraid to just rock up and offer anything on, in the community like this, especially with Christmas coming up as well. There'll be lots of things happening. And finance is another real challenge, because, most volunteer people don't get paid because they're volunteers. So, it's, finance to keep funding the charity, to keep being able to provide for people for free. It's absolutely for free. So we've got to be able to raise that. My best advice for anyone seeking to do this particular area of chaplaincy would be just to follow your passion. There's so many different sectors of society we can help in. I studied cross-cultural communication and cross-cultural studies probably about maybe 10 years ago, and then found myself in this space. I feel I followed my passion. I love working with people from all different nationalities. It's just something I really enjoy. And so I just feel I found myself here, and it's in that zone that I've loved. I would also say start in the trenches. Like, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, make coffee, make tea. I've learned that it's chai. I've learned, that they mainly drink it black, and they love a bit of like a sugar stick in it, and sometimes a bit of cinnamon. And, you just learn what people love and try to serve them there and build those relationships with them. Stay humble, always be a learner. I think another best advice when you're starting out, particularly before you manage to do all of this work and learn all of these skills, you might get a volunteering opportunity next week. And so you think, I haven't even learned my skills. How am I going to do this? One of the things I say, sit in their story and refrain from telling your own for a while, because sometimes we want so quickly to tell people how we've also gone through that, or we've also done that, when really it's just good to listen. So start as a learner, start as a listener, refrain from telling your own story for a little while until you learn the skills to do that well, and understand the suffering of the person if you can, and the family that you're sitting with. In real life spaces of volunteering and helping people and meeting people, it keeps you really grounded and really grateful. Gratitude through the roof when you see someone that's hands chopped off and bullet hole through their shoulder. I mean, you just sit there going, thank you that I live in such a country where hopefully that's a really, rare thing to happen, whereas some people have it as their everyday experience. So it keeps you grounded, it keeps you grateful, and always keep learning. So that's my story. I'll leave these next 10 minutes. I think we've got, is it Jeremy, or 5? Just open for any questions.
Yeah, questions and comments.
I hope I haven't scared you off. It's really easy to get into this area of chaplaincy. And it really does open you up to others in your community, and really the suffering of your city, and help.
Okay, anyone got any questions or thoughts for Mandy?
Yes, just if ever, how do you react to maybe the cultural or if there's a little bit of violence or aggression from a family, or I guess most of them are just wanting the support, but do you come across that at all? And
Oh
how do you
yeah,
deal with
yeah,
it?
survival.
Survival.
So yeah, sometimes we've had women, you know, because we try to make up baskets that are all the same. So I'll just show you one photo here. Um, so we make up like boxes that are all the same. So everyone gets the same in a box. But if there is a family of 5, say, opposed to a family of 2, of course, we're going to give more food for the family of 5 than the family of 2. So that sometimes can cause misunderstanding, especially when there's so much need. So we have had sometimes women fighting over things. We've had them, you know, misunderstanding of what the charity is. So they'll think it's like a supermarket where they can choose whatever they want instead of understanding food bank. We can only get what they give us. It's not like we can go in with a big list of all our choices. So it will take sometimes sitting down and trying to, you know, calm people down and then explain very slowly to them how the charity works. And, you know, we also, if they've been rude 2 or 3 times to the volunteers, I'll often pull them aside and sit down with somebody that can interpret and just make them understand that I may have to ask them to, you know, hold off for a few weeks until they can calm down and then they can come back. Or, you know, there's just ways that I try to get around. In other words, saying, you can't behave like that, or you can't speak like that, you know. But a lot of the time I've learned that when people act out like that, there's usually some underlying reason. And when you can get to that and they feel understood, then the behavior often stops. So yeah, it was it Louisa that asked the question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Louisa, it does happen a lot. And so those learning the skills of conflict and how to, you know, calm people down and mediate that is important. Yeah.
I think what you will find is that in some of these role plays that you're going to be doing in the units, will help you, you know, once you get into real life. So some of these role plays are based in real life situations. They're not just made up scenarios. So we will be giving you tools in this course that will help you on the ground, so to speak. Any other
I
thoughts or
always say give
questions?
people, yeah, you can give people, you know, 1, 2 chances, but yeah, you can't tolerate people being rude to people either. So yeah.
Because it
Anyway,
needs to be a safe space for all the others that are there too.
yeah. Yeah. Any other questions?
I just thought it was interesting. Your last point before people started asking questions really hit home to me. You said that you know, be aware that you don't tell people your own experiences and jump in and kind of take over the conversation. That we're all, it's kind of our instinct when people talk to us that we okay, I've been through that, blah 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 blah. But it's probably the most, in my opinion, is the most important thing you said really throughout that, because it's so easy for you to comment about your own experiences when you just can't, and that's really hard to do, and that's a skill.
I agree. Yeah. It is hard.
But I just wanted to
Yeah.
quickly, I did some work a couple of years ago now for a parish pantry in Burwood in Sydney. And what we found was that the people were getting they all got the same bag as well, but they walked down the road a little bit, and it was the Chinese community, and they'd go down the road a bit and then they'd sell it on to people. So, and that's not a criticism. I'm just saying that there's things that you wouldn't even think of, you know, unfortunately those things happen. So yeah, that was
They
just,
do. Yeah.
People often look for, you know, if you're giving them a box of stuff or a bag of stuff, now they may try to sell it on marketplace so that they can get money, you know. So, but you know, these are the understandings we have to have, and if that's what they're going to do with that box or that bag, well, okay,
I don't feel so bad about saying it now that you've just validated me.
No, people do that all the time. We've had
Yeah.
people that they walk out, they swap them. We've had people picked up in fancy cars that have just received our charity, and you have to kind of refrain judgment because you don't know if that's their neighbor or if that's someone just giving them a lift or if it's their son, so you just don't know, and it's really, really hard. One thing we did, we put in a measure of protection where we don't screen the people because we don't want to be the ones that are saying, can you afford this or can't you afford this? But rather we have referrals. So we have a system of referrals set up where they have to go to an agency like Red Cross or Centrelink or one of the hospitals, Migrant Resource Centre, and they refer them to us. So they refer people that they know are really in need. Now, can people lie? Yeah, they can. But are people genuinely in need? Yeah, they are. So, you just have to let that happen. It's part of it. You do get used to it. You get better at not getting angry over the things that you might think are unjust, or someone may be taking you for a ride, because there's always such a beauty to be found in the genuine article of the genuine person that's in need. So yeah, but good point, because it does happen and it is hard.
Okay, any other thoughts? Any other questions for Mandy? Well, before we have a break?
I do have just a quick one.
Yep.
I grew up with my mum doing a job like this with the Salvation Army in the early days. So most of the mid-70s to late 80s. And I just know that every day of doing it, she'd come, and it was all voluntary. Every day when she'd come home, she'd be really tired and there wasn't much to give back to the family at the end of the day. What, in your experience, for you, as someone in this role, what have you done to help yourself look after your own well-being and make sure that your cup's full? What have you found has been the right thing for you?
That's a really good question, because it was something actually that the chaplaincy course that I did a while back really helped me with, and that was understanding not to enmesh myself in people's distress, or, because you can sit alongside someone and support them, or you can try and be their savior and try and do everything you can. And that actually is what we would call an enmeshment, where it's a wrong kind of attachment, so that when you go home, you can't stop thinking about it. You can't, you know what I mean? Like it's affected you so deeply that then you can't function in your own family. So, I don't want to make this sound simplistic, but it's often like when you leave that space, you take off that coat, hang it up, and then go home, So there's skills that I learned actually in chaplaincy that helped me to put boundaries around, what I do during the day, so that then I can be very present at home for my family. Do I always do it well? No, sometimes not, but, you do actually learn them, and it is important. It's really important. And I think that's important whether it's chaplaincy or any work that we do, actually. Yeah,
true. Thank you.
Yeah, good
I
question.
think what you might find too, Kay, is a lot of organisations that you may volunteer in, or take on a chaplaincy role, they often will be providing you opportunities to debrief. They will see that as part of their role, in that self-care space. To because let's face it, if they want to, they need the volunteers. And so if they don't look after the volunteers will take off. So they've got a duty of care. And so they'll be giving you opportunity, after every shift maybe, or once a month, to debrief and talk things through. And I think make best use of that.
Yeah, definitely.
When you first start, you think, oh, I'm invincible. It's okay. It'll wash off on the way home, but some of the situations that you face, they don't.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Mandy. That's a great insights there into that community chaplain space, So thank you for sharing there and sharing your heart and your passion. So that's the idea, Every Tuesday, we'll have a different sector, someone come and present, stories and insights in that space.